I can remember the time that I saw the original Xbox, and I thought, yeah, this doesn't stand a chance against the PlayStation 2, of course not. But then, when I saw them show it and demonstrate it, and I heard about all the things like a hard drive, and the fact that I wouldn't need memory cards anymore, and then they talked about power, and they talked about being hardcore, I was intrigued, and of course, Halo is the title that everyone says put Xbox on the map, and kept the original Xbox in the game, because without that, a lot of people said that it would have been just game over for the Xbox as an upstart, and it really was sort of an uphill battle for them coming in and competing against PlayStation and Nintendo. But for me, there were quite a few games on the original Xbox besides Halo that really made it stand out to me. And I started to think about those games, and there were quite a few, like I said, and I wanted to pick a few that I thought really demonstrated why, for me, the original Xbox was something that I had to have in addition to the other systems in that generation. So let's get into the games that I feel are the most important for the original Xbox. Not only that they helped the system compete, but these are games that are available right now for you to play on your Xbox Series X or Series S. And you can buy them, if you don't own them, right now on those systems, which is pretty incredible, being able to go back and play these games and see the history of the original Xbox. So let's get into the games that I feel are the most important original Xbox games that you can play right now on your current gen system. There's no denying that PlayStation had tons of Japanese role-playing games, and Microsoft, as an upstart, found it very difficult to find support in that genre. So what they did is they took the Western-style RPG and introduced it to console players, and the Elder Scrolls Morrowind completely and totally blew me away when I first played it. I mean, this was a game and a world that was incredibly realistic at the time. It was persistent. You would walk into a house or a building and there were things on the shelves, and every single one of them was something that you can read or you can pick up. They had weight, they had a value to them that you can trade and you can purchase, and the world itself felt alive, and it was all seamlessly connected. You can wander from one part of the world to the other. Along the way, you would find people to interact with, quests would pop up. It just felt fresh and new, and it introduced the Elder Scrolls and Western-styled RPGs to the masses on console. I can still remember looking at those Japanese role-playing games on the PlayStation 2, and they were phenomenal, and they still are. But when I saw this and I sat down and I was sort of thrust into this world, I didn't know what to do. I didn't realize that the world was waiting for me. It wasn't being sort of pushed on me in a linear way. And it just completely, totally sucked me in. I was lost in this game. And ever since then, I've been a huge fan of Elder Scrolls. This is one of those important titles for the original Xbox that I think a lot of people overlook, but it definitely differentiated the Xbox to the PlayStation 2, and it definitely demonstrated how powerful the original Xbox was to be able to render a world like this. Now, the fine folks at Oddworld Inhabitants were known for making their series of games on the PlayStation, so when Microsoft stepped in and stole them away from Sony and PlayStation, it was sort of a big deal at the time, and Oddworld Munch's Odyssey was a launch title for the original Xbox, and I think it was one of the most unique games that made the Xbox stand out. It wasn't just a platformer, it was an action, adventure, strategy game. There were so many elements to these games, and if you've played past Oddworld games, you know that, but on the original Xbox, this game looked incredible. Now, this is a cutscene in the beginning, but these cutscenes use the character models from the actual in-game, and I promise you, when you go and you play this game today, if you download it, or you own it, or you have the disc, you put it in your Xbox Series X or S, you are going to be amazed at the artwork and the animation and the stellar gameplay and the puzzles in this game. This was a big deal for Microsoft to get a Sony developer who made their games on the PlayStation 2. And I can remember the Oddworld team talking about the power of the Xbox and why they decided to develop this game exclusively for that system. And you got one of the most creative franchises brought over to the Xbox right at launch, and it is just a gem. I promise you, I'm playing this game right now, and I can't believe how many gameplay elements are mismatched together, and they just work. For some reason, you would never expect it to, but they work. And the characters and the writing is so good, and it took advantage of the hardware in the original Xbox to deliver one of the best looking launch titles on the Xbox. So this game, I feel, was another one that just highlighted how important it was to get creators on the Xbox, and they had a rough time doing it as an upstart, but they managed to get Oddworld Inhabitants, and Munch's Odyssey is a true gem. The closest we got to a mascot for the Xbox was Conker. And Conker Bad Fur Day, when it launched on the original Xbox, was an amazing experience. Not only did it take advantage of the hardware, you couldn't get visuals like this on the PlayStation 2. The individual fur on Conker was a standout. They talked about that when they were demoing the game. But the style of this game and the irreverence of the character, it was Xbox. When you thought about hardcore, you thought about Xbox, you thought Conker. It was a perfect fit. This was an important platformer in its time. It introduced a lot of innovative gameplay experiences and mechanics, all wrapped up in this amazing package. Who can forget the giant piece of poop singing opera? Yes, that happened in a video game back then. Would never happen now. Of course, you wouldn't see a cutscene like this in a video game now. Conker liked the ladies, and that's one of the selling points of the character. It was a great game. I can remember playing it and just thinking to myself, did that just happen? Did I really just do that in a video game? And I just wanted this character to be so much more than it eventually became. Of course, it faded away, but I really would love a return to this style of character. We're never going to see it from Microsoft. I get it. But back then, this screamed Xbox. When you thought about Xbox and things that made it different, you definitely thought about Conker. There were so many advertisements for Xbox that featured Conker. It was just a fun, really great platformer to have on your system. Every system needed a big platformer and a big character, and Microsoft and Xbox had that in Conker Bad Fur Day. Every third-party game looked best on the original Xbox. There's no denying that. And BloodRayne 2 was a huge game back in the day. Action, adventure, hack and slash with a sexy female vampire. And when you loaded this game up on your original Xbox, it looked so much better than any other system. It was just amazing. You knew that they were taking advantage of that Xbox, and it was setting itself apart. The character models, the reflections, just the texture quality in this game on the original Xbox, it blew me away. I can remember this game being such a big deal on the original Xbox. I remember reading, I think it was EGM magazine, and they talked about this game and how much different it looked compared to the PlayStation 2 at the time. And of course, the assets here, obviously, taking advantage of the original Xbox's power. But then when you get into the gameplay, it just looks so crisp for the time, and I can't really explain how important these games were and how amazing they were, going from the previous generation to the original Xbox, and then seeing PlayStation 2 versions and Xbox versions of third-party games. They really took advantage of the system, and this is one of those games that I feel is super important for the original Xbox. And the fact that you can go back and play this game now, you really get a sense of how great these action hack and slash games were. And there's no denying that BloodRayne 2 on the original Xbox really let you know that this system had some power, and you had the best version of this game and probably any other game that was going to come out in that generation. The more things change, the more they stay the same. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, exclusive right now to the Xbox. Well, back in the day, the original Xbox had an exclusive Indiana Jones title, Indiana Jones and the Emperor's Tomb. This is before Uncharted. This game is a bit rough in the gameplay department, but there's no denying that when you look at it today, imagine seeing this back in the day on the original Xbox in that generation. I mean, another title that you loaded up on your original Xbox, and you just sat there and you thought, wow, this system really has what it takes to deliver great looking games. And Indiana Jones was a big name back then, and I feel like this is one of those games that is forgotten, but you can still play it on your Xbox Series X and S, and I would recommend going back and checking this out because there's a lot of gameplay ideas in this game that carried over to some of those really big AAA action adventure exclusives on the other guy's console, and I feel like this game should be celebrated. It should be experienced even with all of the rough edges. This didn't score particularly well, but it was a big deal back in the day. I can remember reading about this and thinking, wow, the original Xbox has an exclusive Indiana Jones game. And the one thing that it did do, again, is demonstrate the difference between the Xbox and everybody else. This was one of those games that were breathtaking back in the day. It really was, and it's hard to convey that now if you haven't lived through that period to remember what it was like. But there were so many games coming out on PlayStation that stuff like this was so important for Microsoft and the Xbox to have an exclusive action-adventure game, to have Indiana Jones on the system. It just was a big deal. And it's really funny going back and playing this now with Indiana Jones and the Great Circle out. It was only exclusive for a little while, but it definitely showed the difference between the Xbox and the PlayStation. There's no denying that when Splinter Cell launched, every single person that was a gamer took notice. Even if you were a raging PlayStation 2 fanatic, this game literally said Xbox is the system that can deliver the best visuals in this generation, period. I remember seeing this for the first time and thinking, how is this possible in that generation? You really had to live through it. The lighting effects in this game, no system was doing this. And when you look at the PlayStation 2 version of Splinter Cell, it is a night and day difference. It's almost like 2 generations behind because they really took advantage of the hardware. This was a time when Microsoft was making sure that everyone knew that the Xbox was the most powerful system, and it wasn't just about being more powerful, it was about using that power to create games that you couldn't get anywhere else and experiences that you couldn't replicate on any other system. The cloth physics, Sam interacting with cloth back in the day was such a big deal. You laugh at it now, but it was amazing. And the split jump, the animation with the split jump, check this out right here. I remember them showing this in the trailer and thinking, wow, things could not ever get better than this in gaming and the graphics. And this game was so important. In my view, it was more important than Halo. Yes, Halo kept Xbox on the map, and then the LAN parties and the multiplayer with Halo 2 and Halo 3. But this game really pushed third-person action and stealth and adventure. And it was another game that you knew couldn't be done on any other system, and an experience that you really couldn't get anywhere else but Xbox. All of those JRPGs on PlayStation 2, again, the big problem for Xbox was that they couldn't get any of those really great creators to bring those games to the original Xbox as an upstart. But BioWare delivered an exclusive that was, even to this day, some of their best work. And it was Jade Empire. This game was so big at the time, I cannot even describe to you how big this was. I remember reading about it, everything I could possibly get, any information that would come out, I would just suck up. And when it finally released, man, did it deliver in the gameplay department. Again, it was an action RPG, a Western-styled RPG. I'm telling you, this game, even to this day, looks fantastic on your Xbox Series X or S, and it plays so well. This is BioWare being BioWare. This is BioWare delivering deep gameplay mechanics, great characters, a great story, a world that's fully realized, not as deep or as open as The Elder Scrolls Morrowind, but still not as linear as some of those early Japanese role-playing games. You felt like you were in a world that was alive. You felt like you were this character and you could explore anywhere you wanted to, And then the evolution in the gameplay and the mechanics and the upgrades, it just felt phenomenal. It was another title that took advantage of the original Xbox hardware to differentiate it from everything else in that generation. The character models looked fantastic, the animation was fantastic, the artwork, the colors, the world, the story. This was an absolute gem of an exclusive title on the original Xbox, and one of the best original Xbox games that you can still play right now on your current gen hardware. So these are the games that I feel are the most important original Xbox games that you can still play right now. Let me know some games that you think I missed out on, besides Halo, of course. That was the obvious one, and I didn't want to include that. And thanks for watching the video. I really appreciate that. Maybe like and subscribe, and I'm going to see you all in the next one.